Hey, what's up everybody? Coach Matt over here, Primal Athlete Training Center, www.primalatc.com. Now, check this out. Yesterday I did a video on if it's possible to train explosion and strength at the same time. Somebody had sent in the question, and I answered it actually from my car because it was something I just wanted to, I got the email quick and wanted to get to it as fast as I could because it's a good question. And as I'm shooting the video, basically, the idea of complex training keeps popping up in the back of my head. There's this little voice in the back of my head saying, don't forget to touch on complex training. Don't forget to mention complex training. But as I was going through the video and explaining why I like to divide my workouts the way that I do here in the gym with my throwers, the video was getting long and I didn't have a chance to talk about complex training. As I'm uploading the video to YouTube, that voice in the back of my head is still telling me, hey, complex training, dummy. Talk about complex training. Don't upload this video. Sure enough, 20 minutes after the thing airs, get a question from somebody and says, hey, Coach Matt, what about complex training? Well, let's explain this real quick. Complex training is essentially what I said yesterday was not optimal for a thrower. Basically, taking a strength training exercise, like for example, let's do bench press because everyone knows that. Taking a strength training exercise like bench press and pairing that strength exercise in the same day, really in the same workout, with an explosive upper body pushing movement, using the same movement pattern, one for strength, followed immediately by one for mass explosion as quick as you can go, with very little rest after one another. So for example, say you had 5 sets of 5, we'll write it up here, 5 sets of 5 bench press. And then right after, immediately after every set of bench press, you did 5 med ball slams up against the wall. So 5 bench press, 2, 3, 4, 5, rack it up. Then you head over to your med ball, right up against the wall, boom, 1, boom, 2, boom, 3, all 5. Now say, for example, this is the way that you train. We need to take a look at why I said that it's not optimal for a thrower. Going back now probably 10 years when I first started to get my certifications, when I first really got interested and involved in training others, I used to read a lot about complex training. And complex training makes a lot of sense. Basically, the way that it works is that the strength training movement is going to wake up your central nervous system. The strength training movement is basically going to enable type 2 muscle fibers to take the explosive quality, to take the explosive movement that you're doing after the strength movement and adapt to it more easily, learn from it more easily. That essentially is what complex training seeks to do. Now, complex training, from what I have researched now, and this is going back 10 years and still continuing my research to this day whenever I read anything about it, complex training has never, from what I have found, been tested on an already high-level explosive athlete. Whenever I see complex training studies being done in different medical journals and different sports science journals, even when you read about it on like the websites out there that are like the bro science type websites, guys that just have some experience and are writing about it, kind of like I'm doing right here. When I read stuff like that, it never has to deal with a thrower. It never has to deal with a Highland Games athlete. It never has to deal with a Olympic lifter. It always has to deal with sprinters or just general people, just your layperson just sort of walking around. They'll test complex training and then see if the person got more explosive. And sure enough, they usually do. But it's never been trained, as far as I've found, on a pure explosive athlete, somebody that already has years of explosive movement training under their belt. Will it help them improve? My theory, based on what I have done here in the gym, testing on my athletes. We used to do complex training in the old gym maybe 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago with some of my original athletes. And what I noticed is that when you take an already explosive athlete, someone that already has a massive amount of strength, somebody that already has an explosive level that is really, really high, and you introduce complex training to that, it actually goes down a little bit. Now, let me explain why and sort of my theory behind this. Again, I don't work for a college or a university, so I'm just going to explain this real quick. If you take a look at pretty much your strength spectrum, okay? You've got on one end maximum strength. This is the heaviest weight that you can do one time, and usually you're moving that heavy weight pretty slowly. It's going to be the lowest amount of velocity, lowest amount of speed, heaviest weight. We go into strength speed, which is a little bit lighter of a weight that you move faster. Speed strength is a kind of medium to light weight that you move even faster than that. And speed velocity or explosion is a lightweight, 30 to 40 to 50% of your max that you can move as quickly as possible. That's sort of the spectrum, if you want to call that, of explosive strength, of that strength training, that curve, if you want to call it that. What I was talking about yesterday was doing your strength speed / max strength work on one day for one muscle group. So bench press, let's say, on one day is going to be right here, working with that 75 to 95% of your max. And the explosive movement, that med ball throw, doing it on a totally separate day, not coupling them together, not doing a complex with those two, one right after the other. Here's the reason why. If you're working, say, with a basic program, say 5 sets of 5, so 5 sets of 5 bench press, 5 sets of 5 medicine ball. If you're working in a program like that, and you're going to keep the weight the same, just to say for argument's sake, you're going to keep the weight the same for all 5 sets of 5 reps on bench press. If you're a 300-pound bencher, you're going to be somewhere in that 225-pound range. So you're going to be 225 pounds for 5 sets of 5. Now, if you were to do this on a separate day, the medicine ball, I would probably use like a 7 kilogram or an 8 kilogram med ball, moving it, of course, explosively as quickly as you possibly can. Well, what happens if you couple those together? Well, just looking at that, if I were to do 225 for 5 sets of 5, and after each set do 7 kilogram med ball throws against a wall, I wouldn't be able to use 225 pounds. By the time I get to my 4th or 5th set, I'm going to be a lot slower and a lot weaker and not be able to get all 5. Same thing, 7 kilogram med ball on that 4th or 5th set, I'm not going to be moving it as quickly. So by doing a complex, I'll probably have to go down to like 205, 185 maybe, and like a 6 kilogram or 5 kilogram med ball. So when you look at it, doing a complex training, you're not going to be using as heavy of a weight as you should, and you're not going to be moving a heavy enough med ball at the speed that you should. Separating the two means that you're still getting the strength training and the explosive movement training, but you're doing so using the appropriate amount of weight. Now, does complex training work? Absolutely. Complex training works very, very well, but complex training is going to be more for your sprinters. Complex training is going to be for your athletes who are, under 200 meters, 200 meters, 100 meters, 55-meter runners, your high jumpers, long jumpers, triple jump, pole vault, you guys in your relays. It's also great for boxers, which a lot of these tests have been done on. It's great for your MMA fighters as well. It's great for basketball players, people that need to basically produce power for a longer period of time, somewhere in that 10 to 20 second range. NFL running backs, wide receivers, whatever it might be, someone that has to be explosive and produce power for, say, a 10 to 15 second interval with a little bit of rest and then go boom right back into it. If you're dealing with a purely explosive athlete, this is where I see that working with complex training may not be the right thing. It's good. In my opinion, it's probably the next best thing, but it's never been proven on truly pure explosive athletes like Olympic lifters, like shot putters, like hammer throwers, whatever event you might do, to increase that explosiveness. Our training here in the gym has shown actually that the explosiveness and strength has decreased because we had to decrease the amount of weight they were doing and the amount of explosive movement that they were doing. They weren't moving as quickly when it was paired together. So that's my findings. That's sort of what I've found over the years of training. I've never read anything from a sports science journal or a medical science journal that has ever had anything to do with an explosive athlete. It's mostly been general public and sprinters, speed-based athletes that need to hold on to that speed for that 10 to 30 second range. All right, so if you have any findings If you have anything that you found, please share it with me. Let's keep this talk going, because this is really helping out a lot of coaches out there that are wondering about percentages and the appropriate way to train. If there's any questions, please make sure to leave the comment below in the YouTube section, or you can email me, matt@primalatc.com. Talk to you soon.